Hello everyone and welcome to today's Mondac webinar in association with Gün Partners. This webinar concentrates on why it's important to increase the IP awareness of women for accelerating innovation and creativity. My name is Dan Sampaio and I'm joined by a brilliant panel to take us through today's discussion. Mutlu Yildirim Köse has been with Gün Partners since 2006 and a partner since 2017. Mutlu is both a lawyer and a trademark and patent attorney, specializing in intellectual property practice. Her IP practice focuses on trademarks, designs, and copyrights. She has been involved in numerous projects on all fields of IP. Özlem Er received her BID and MSc degrees from the Middle East Technical University in Ankara, Turkey, and her PhD from the Institute of Advanced Studies at Manchester Metropolitan University in the UK. Having taught at METU from 1996 to 2000 and the Istanbul Technical University, she is currently a full professor at the Department of Industrial Design, Istanbul University. And Sebnem Timur graduated from the Department of Industrial Design at the METU in 1994 and received her degrees of MFA 1996 and PhD 2001 from Bilgi University, Department of Graphic Design. She has worked as a research assistant at METU in the Department of Industrial Design and has conducted a postdoctoral study as an honorary research fellow at University College London in the Department of Anthropology, Material Culture. She is currently teaching at Istanbul Technical University, Department of Industrial Design. Now, before I hand over to today's panel, a housekeeping item. You can submit questions to our panel by typing them into the questions pane of the toolbar on the right-hand side of your page, and we will endeavour to answer as many of those questions as possible. It's now my pleasure to hand you over to the panel to begin. Thank you.
Thank you for your introduction, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. As we all know, World IP Day is celebrated every year to raise awareness on IP, and this year's theme is Women and IP, Accelerating Innovation and Creativity. Today, our discussion will focus on this topic with participation of two creative women, Professor Özlem Er and Professor Sebnem Timur. We are glad to have you here today. Before starting our discussion, I believe our audience would like to hear more about you. Professor Er and Professor Timur, could you please tell us more about yourself and your work?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting us to be speakers in this webinar. I am Özlem Er, as it was already told by our presenter. I am Özlem Er. I am head of department at Istanbul Bilgi University. I can say that I am one of the second generation ID graduates in Turkey. I am one of the oldies, if you like. Now I became like that, I'm afraid. So I am in industrial design education since 1996. I started at METU, and since 2000 I live in Istanbul, and now I am professor at Istanbul Bilgi University. And I also worked I also had some positions in the Professional Association of Industrial Designers in Turkey, ATMK, through many years. So I have also experience on that side, in civil initiative side as well.
Thank you. And Professor Timur?
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be speaking here. Yes, I'm also a graduate of Middle East Technical University, Department of Industrial Design. So I'm an industrial designer and maybe a design researcher for the third generation. I don't know if we have just that much time difference between us, but yeah, we have been teaching since, we have been in the teaching business since 19 1994 or 1995, starting from Ankara, and it's been like 20 years in Istanbul Technical University for me, continuing my studies. I also acted as the department chair for 2 years. I gave it to another colleague of mine. So we have been in lots of projects. We coached a lot of projects. We have been in the processes of developing, I don't know, hundreds, maybe even thousands of ideas, student projects or some industry collaborations. And this is the, undergraduate part. For the graduate part, we have been dealing with design research, how we can produce knowledge about design and creativity, and all the areas that touches design actually. My personal inquiry or research interest area is culture and design, basically. But for the frame of this meeting, we have been acting as experts for court cases regarding intellectual property rights and trying to cope up with what's going on in the area.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We are very happy to be with you who have such a valuable place in the field of industrial design. As the theme of this year is Women and IP, I would like to start my speech with gender equality. Gender equality is evidently important in the IP as it is in the every field. Throughout the history, women made undeniable contributions to science, art and technology, despite all difficulties. Today, despite the glass ceiling in workplaces and limited opportunities compared to men, women are obviously behind the most important inventions and designs, as you mentioned. The development of science and technology plays an important role in the development of countries and depends on the global protection of IP rights and gender equality in the field of IP. In line with the World IP Day's theme yesterday, the European Union IP Office has published a study on women in design, and it reveals a significant gender gap in the design industry in the EU. The study found that only 24% of designers in the EU are women, and it would take over 50 years to close the gap at the current phase. According to this study, women designers also earn 12.8% less average than their male colleagues. So now I would like to ask your opinions about these statistics. What is the situation in the industrial design sector in our country and your universities? The rate of the female students and academicians. Could you please tell us more about this topic?
Yes, maybe I can start by this question. As the Departments of Industrial Design in Turkey, we have a council, and this council produces some information, of course, regarding all the departments and the overview about the situation of the industrial design departments in Turkey. I just had the chance to look at the numbers before coming to this meeting. The situation is just the opposite in Turkey. I mean, women are represented more in industrial design sector. I mean, maybe not in terms of professionals, I mean, acting professionals. Özlem Hoca has provided me with this number. The ETMK Istanbul Industrial Designers Society Istanbul branch, it has 175 members, of which 79 of them are women and 96 of them are men. So if we look at the professionals, maybe, I mean, of course, this is a number according to a membership, but it seems a bit equal. But when we look at the academy, I mean, it's really interesting. For example, if we take the, major universities like ITU, Mimar Sinan University, Marmara or Bilgi, or other leading universities according to student numbers, we can see that, or Middle East Technical University, of course. For example, in ITU, 70% of the staff, academic members, are women. The ratio is 17 women to 7 male academics. Similarly, in Middle East Technical University, there are 34 female academics regarding 24 male academics. It means 58%. And in Bilgi, hocam, I looked at that also, it's 68%. I mean, maybe it's more if you look at the core stuff, but these numbers are these numbers cover the part-time instructors as well, not the core academic stuff. So, I mean, of course, different things can be said about that, but I should add, maybe we can discuss this in the future discussions, but I cannot stop. There are two anomalies I just noticed. One is Gazi University in Ankara. Gazi University has both an industrial design department and industrial design engineering department. And in both of those departments, there's the male domination. I mean, 25 male academics to 13 women academics. So, of course, this is also related to the culture of the institution and other things. But a similar male dominant characteristic can be seen in Mimar Sinan University as well. 19 male to 8 women academics. Okay, Gazi represents a more engineering background, whereas Mimar Sinan is always and has always been, of course, rightfully related to fine arts. So, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change, you know, whether it's engineering or fine arts, there is this patriarchal institutional hegemony of male over women. Maybe
Mimar Sinan is
it was
interesting.
too harsh. I don't know. Maybe. But of course, it was always the same, starting from Bauhaus. I mean, Walter Gropius, who was the founder of Bauhaus, he was a male architect, and he always assumed or tried to direct women to textiles, embroidery, or painting, like fine arts. He just go with the feminine side of design and then just leave the rest, like the architecture, to men. So it has always been like that, but Middle East Technical University, or IT, or other universities, but the other universities have a more balanced. But when you sum the numbers, it becomes equal. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Male to female. Çok konuştum. Okay.
No, no. I mean, you mentioned important points. I think I can add. I mean, the representation, gender representation, seems to be equal, and as Sebnem Hoca said, maybe on the side of women, which is an anomaly in the world. I mean, we are in a better situation. But this is also observed in Turkey. I mean, in medicine, for example, there are much more women medical doctors than many other European countries. This is also observed. I mean, it happens with the establishment of the Turkish Republic. Women were encouraged to enter into many different professions. So we are not in a bad situation in that sense. Also, there are some studies that women take jobs that allow flexible hours, and that's why maybe we see a lot of academics I mean, women take academic positions because academic positions allow more flexible hours to work. That and it's women accept positions that are paid lowly but flexible hours. So they kind of choose those kinds of professions. This is also a universal finding, actually. So another issue is that gender representation is not bad, but when it comes to women starting work, we face problems such as the issue of child care. This is always a problem in professional life. When women start building families and having children, problems start. We need support systems to see more women in working places. So I think we can say all these for this question.
Thank you very much. And yeah, you can.
Maybe I can add some numbers according to the students. For example, I'm teaching first year compulsory course design theories and methods, and there are 85 students there, and only 20 of them are males. We have 65 female students out of 85. I think this is a huge difference. And also in the third year studio, it's similar, 13 male and 27 female. I mean, of course, it all depends to the kind of the perception of the profession and the wages and working hours, as Özlem Hoca has been mentioning.
Yeah, there are some Turkish specific issues because we don't have much specialisms in design education, like interaction design or glass design, ceramics design. We don't have much possibility of getting design education in different fields of design. So people come to industrial design. I mean, for every kind of creative sector, they come to industrial design teaching. There are some anomalies because of the system, design education system in Turkey, I think.
Design is considered to be a soft profession in contrast to engineering or architecture or other areas. So
yes.
It's similar with interior design, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Then it's very nice to hear that in Turkey the number of the women are high. But as I understand from, especially from Professor Er's speech, still there is some problems about the gender equality because the woman has some other issues for caring the children, etc. And so if we go back to the IP Day, I think one of the most important questions is the awareness level of the designers on the protection of the ideas they introduce and the products they design with IP rights. What's your opinion about the importance of IP for designers and the importance of protecting their designs for both men and women, actually?
Yeah. I think design is a creative act, and because it's a creative act, and designers are expected to come up with original ideas, original product concepts. So, of course, for designers to protect their ideas, to protect the outcome of their creative work is very important, more important than other professions maybe. But in all creative fields, I think IP is important. I think they have great awareness in regard to protecting their ideas. Whether they are aware of the means of protecting their ideas, it's another matter. But I think for designers as a professional group, IP is very important. I think I can say this. Maybe Sebnem can.
Should you like to?
Yeah, IP, I mean, they have an awareness, but I think the kind of process seems to be very complicated, and it's a know-how on its own. I mean, it's not enough to design something or make an innovation or be creative or whatever, but you have to know the procedures regarding to that. So it creates a kind of distance between designers and maybe a kind of reluctance even. They want to protect it, but they don't know how.
Yeah. And also it takes financial resources.
Yeah.
And also, you know, to know how you can protect your idea, you know, whether you should get a design registration or utility patent or patent. So the differences between these things. And also design, maybe we forget this, most of the designers work within companies. I mean, they design something for a client. So it's also the responsibility of the client to protect their work. This is also a problematic issue. Sometimes it becomes a problematic issue. Who's the owner of that idea? Sometimes companies say that, you know, we are responsible for this design as a group. So sometimes it becomes the responsibility of the institution that these designers work for.
And you or your students or your colleagues have faced any IP problems, disputes in anywhere?
Yeah. Of course, we have different experiences. We make industry collaborations, and apart from that, we kind of develop projects in classes, and we sometimes approach industry ourselves. So our colleagues, of course, experience such problems that they design something, they go to the firm, and they present it to the firm. And then, as there is not an agreement at that point, okay, they talk about it. Okay, nice to meet you, and they go apart. And then one day, he or she sees the same design on the display. It's been produced. So it's really frustrating because it's a kind of a trust issue, because you take what you have created and you trust someone to start a way together maybe, but then it's stealing, basically stealing, and there is no need for that, because and I think firms cannot understand that this is a kind of manevi right.
Yeah, moral right. It's a moral right, yeah.
Moral right, yeah. It's not. I mean, I think they have this pressure of if I give this right to the designer, I have to pay him or her. No, it's not like that. It's their natural right to have their names on products, and by this way, the firm will be able to do maybe more collaborations and be more, I mean, learning about how to do design and how to win by design. But so we have a lot of stories actually, but let me give the word to Özlem.
I mean, through the years, through our, you know, being lecturers, tutors in design education, we help students to come up with new product ideas every semester. So at the end of every semester, actually, we get a lot of new product ideas, new concepts, new prototypes, and some of them can be protected. Some of them have real value that can be protected. But we find it difficult to do these things because it takes effort and time to be able to do these things. So we need support systems in the schools. So this is one issue that we face all the time. Another thing, every time we go somewhere to show our work, our students' work. It happened, for example, to me once that we took our students' work to a fair and they were exhibited there, and some were stolen. So it becomes your responsibility. I mean, to show students your work or not to show. So you are not sure about it. How we can protect our students' work. Or sometimes we collaborate with companies. This has become a huge learning issue for us, because when we started collaborating with companies, we didn't have any contracts that would guide us. So we had to establish our own contracts through the years. So maybe we didn't add something and we faced a problem. So next year we added a new item to our contract. And sometimes even we had contracts, some products just copied. Although the company had the right to produce that product, they didn't mention the student's name as a designer. And actually what they had to do was to pay very not big amount of money, just pay the respect to students and write her or his name. But they refrained from that. So we faced all these problems through the years, especially with small and medium-sized companies. Large companies have a policy of IP. They employ lawyers. They know how to work with schools more. But especially with small and medium-sized companies, we faced these kinds of problems. And also we acted as experts, as Sebnem Hoca said, in court cases. And we saw there as well how companies actually, although they design something which is not new actually, which is also stolen from somewhere else, they start these court cases to prevent each other from doing similar things. So we see that design registration, all these law, legal background is good, but if you don't have this mentality within business, then it doesn't prevent all these bad experiences, unfortunately.
Thank you for both of you. Yeah, we are usually facing with such issues in our work as well. And it's very important, as Özlem mentioned and both of you said, to have contracts when you design something and when your students have designed something. Making a contract at the beginning of the work, it would be very important. And maybe if it is available, if it is okay, you should take some support from IP lawyers or trademark attorneys, because it's a technical issue and the students or your academicians, it will be difficult to know everything about such a technical area, and you cannot know what is the design and whether it's a patent or it's the trademark, and you should need some support in some cases. And for universities, maybe there should be a program like that, and such like our firm or other attorneys, we should help your we should support your
we have a lot of stories on that part. We can tell.
I can imagine. Yeah.
We became lawyers ourselves. Learning by asking.
Yeah. And learning from problems, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And now, if you go back to the gender equality of the designs in the field of IP, as I mentioned about the European IP offices study, they examined the data from community design filings and found out that only 21% of the designers listed as women designer. What do you think about the situation in Turkey? You said that the Turkish number of the Turkish female designers is high, but when we look to the register, what are your observations? Do Turkish women designers use the IP system, and do they list it as designers?
Ben başlıyorum galiba. Sorry.
Başla.
Okay. Okay. I think that's related, as I said before. I mean, designers work within companies. They don't. I mean, of course, there are some designers who design their work and produce it and sell it like that, but there are not many designers working like that. Most of the time, designers work within companies. So if a country doesn't have innovative companies producing a lot of new products, then the number of applications, patent applications, design registration applications would be low. This is a natural outcome. So when we look at Turkish industry is mostly engaged in Me Too type of products. Some leader companies produce something, they see it, and they produce a similar thing. So it's not a novel. It doesn't have much novelty in it. So you don't need to register those types of products. But if you are engaged in really novel technologies, in creating technology, then you apply for these kinds of registrations. And we see that, for example, large Turkish companies like Arçelik, Vestel, they apply for these type of things. And women designers, if they work within those companies, of course, their names are written. But if they don't work in such large companies, then we don't see. The problem with small and medium-sized companies, my master's student, Elif İdemen, did a research, and because she was working in a ceramics producing company, she noticed that company owners don't want to write the name of the designer in getting a design registration. They write their own names as designers. They don't want to give recognition to designers. So that's why maybe we don't see the names of the designers much. So it relates to two factors, in my opinion. First, we are not very innovative, maybe. We don't have much innovative companies. And also the companies that get registration don't mention the names of the designers.
But indeed, according to law, they should mention the name of the designer because it's a moral right. But we know such problems.
Law says a lot of things. Yes. Evet.
Yeah, maybe I can add, if we think of design consultancy firms, independent ones, the most famous or internationally known designers are women. I mean, I'm making such big claims today, but I mean, Ayşe Birsel, Defne Koz, Gamze Güven, İnci Mutlu, Özlem Tuna. We have a lot of, I don't know, I would easily call them star designers of Turkey are women. Of course, there are well-known male designers, not to mention, but today is about women, so I would like to mention their names. I think this is also interesting. I mean, there may be other scenarios or reasons for this, but we have to claim that. And also, of course, they partner with big companies, these names. Herman Miller, Vitra, or other ones. Um, so this has to be noted as a kind of characteristics of women designers in Turkey in terms of intellectual property rights. So you have to be, as a designer, you have to be strong enough to claim that this is your design, and the firm should be, I mean, trusting you or paying you. I mean, it's all a star system, you know. It's throughout the globe. It works like that.
Yeah.
Names of the designers.
Yeah, if companies think that they can benefit from the name of the designer, then they advertise it. But if they think that it's not good that the name of the designer is known, then they hide it. It's also part of policy. But sometimes, in our cases, they just don't mention, you know, it's not a policy or anything like that. They just don't have that kind of thinking even. They don't have any IP consideration. So, but we know that in some countries, the name of the designers is specifically mentioned because it's a prestigious thing to mention. And one also outcome of research, Pınar Kaygan also mentions this in her research about gender issues. She says that women designers are much more inclined in designing things that are related with style, more furniture, glass products, sanitary ware, ceramic products, but men designers are much more engaged or taught to be engaged in more engineering products, and automotive design, for example, is more for is considered as a task for men. This is also a general issue.
Yeah, of course, it's also in feminist theory that if we are talking about professionalism in terms of profession, professions even seen close to feminine domains like cooking or, I don't know, fashion. You know, the most famous designers are again male designers. I mean, the woman's natural job is to cook or to make embroideries or whatever, or like be into style and fashion and makeup. But if it's a profession, then just you should have to leave it to the man. I mean, this also works similarly in design field as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for both of you. And my last question is how we can raise the IP awareness of the designers. As far as I know, in Bilgi University, there's a lesson about including IP, and I was part of this lesson last year, and I educated the student about the IP for 3 weeks. And what can be done more for increasing the awareness of the designers and students, especially the young ones?
Who will start me? I will try to. I want to ban this question. I mean, I think they know about the importance of IP. When, I mean, students are really so conscious and know what they are doing while they're making their choices while coming to university, and they well know about those things. I guess. I think the basic problem is, as I said before, the kind of process of the difficulty in reaching that know-how of gaining those IP rights. And I would like to say, I mean, I would like to give an example of my own experience. We have been designing an air-fed surgical helmet for. I mean, she was my friend, the company owner, a woman entrepreneur. I think it's important in Turkey as a woman entrepreneur and she was also an architect, Çera Onmuş. I mean, she commissioned us, me, Ali Gökurtan, Gürçağ Özler, we formed a team and we designed an air-fed surgical helmet to be used in operations because, I mean, you have to protect the surgeon from coming blood or other fluids, or you have to protect the surgeon and the patient as well. So, I mean, it needed to be developed experimentally. I don't know how many prototypes have been made. I mean, the number of prototypes. But what I would like to raise is that when you get, at one point we got this utility registration. Faydalı model neydi? Faydalı model.
Utility model.
Utility model. We deliberately applied for the utility model because we were aware that industrial design registration would not be enough to protect because it's not about the appearance. This is also another
Technical side.
It's another subject of debate, but of course, we got that utility model. But as this product has changed over time, the first utility model, it has, it's kind of disappeared. I mean, it didn't disappear, but it has lost its importance because the model has changed. What I'd like to say is that as this is an entrepreneurship, there is not a fixed object, there is not a fixed product. It's a continuing, ongoing process. So trying to fix things and trying to fix the intellectual property rights, I think this is very problematic. I mean, which part of design are you going to protect? And for what time? And it's going, and I mean, if you want to improve your product, you have to change it. So the whole intellectual property system should be, I don't know, maybe made more flexible. And how will I make my students aware of this? Yeah, it's so difficult because it's an ongoing process.
Because the registration process sometimes takes too long.
The product changes.
Yeah. Actually, recently I had the chance to follow the presentations of two entrepreneurs. They are both from industrial design background. One of them was a speaker in our department, Ömer Hacı Ömeroğlu. He is in America now, and he works to build a very technological helmet for firefighters. And he's been working on it for 10 years. And I asked the same question to him. I said, what about IP? Have you got patents? How do you protect your designs? And he said, yes, we applied for patents and it's very important. But he said, you cannot protect everything that you do. Because what becomes important in the process is the speed. The speed that you bring that product into the market. Because people will copy you anyway. So you need to be the first in the market. There were two entrepreneurs from Australia. I listened to them. They also produced a helmet for motorcyclists, entrepreneurs, ID background. And they said the same thing. Yes, we applied for patents. We have patents for some parts of the product. But again, it's not enough to have a patent. Doesn't even protect you. You have to be the first on the market. And brand value. I think brand is very important because brand is not something that you can copy. You can copy the product, but you cannot copy the brand easily. So brand, to have a business strategy. So to come back to your question, Mutlu, how we can increase the awareness of our students. Of course, they have to be aware of the intellectual property rights, how they can protect their design work, the outcome of their creative ideas, creative processes. This is very important. But first of all, they need to be able to develop business strategies. And within those business strategies, they need to evaluate whether to open their ideas or to protect them. Because as you know, to open up your ideas is also a way of maybe protecting your ideas. We see that, Creative Commons licenses. We see some platforms, even student platforms, where students can show their work and try to find customers to their for the commercialization of those products. So it is also important for students to be aware of the fact that it's not important to have an idea only. If it doesn't come to the market, if you cannot commercialize it, it doesn't have much value. It will stay in the drawers. So to be on the market with the right product requires a kind of business strategy, and we need to complement.
Strategy. I think they should also have an IP strategy.
Yeah, IP strategy needs to be complemented with business strategy, I think.
Yes, sure.
And actually, a lot of my students are here, I think, as part of their course. So this is a way of increasing their IP awareness as well.
Yeah, thank you. Professor Timur, would you like to add something?
Well, I'm fine for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for both of you. And I will ask, we have some time and we have some questions. I will look at those. One question is, could you please highlight measures taken by various governments across to promote women in IP?
Can you repeat the question?
Could you please highlight measures taken by various governments across to promote women in IP?
I think we don't know any specific measures to increase women in IP, but what they do, what I think, for example, governments try to increase gender equality. If you try to increase gender equality, then actually you encourage women in IP, because women will be entrepreneurs more, they will be interested more in STEM subjects, because this is it is also a problem that women are discouraged from STEM subjects sometimes. So if you work for equality in every part of the life, then you increase women presentation in every field.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Yeah.
A lot of women leave work because of childcare, because of the cost of childcare. For example, if you make childcare free, another issue, elderly care, for example. Elderly care, a lot of women have to take care of their families as well. So if you make these things easy to reach, then you increase. I don't think you don't have to take a specific measure to increase the role of women in IP. If you take all the other measures, then things will come naturally, I would say.
Okay,
I think
you.
Private sector may be doing things like, I remember, I don't want to give the name of the website, but this kind of retail websites, a very famous one in Turkey, has a certain section promoting women entrepreneurs, and they are enabling women entrepreneurs to sell their products. So, I mean, having IP on its own doesn't mean anything. So if you don't have the ownership or the production following that, because everybody can develop an idea and take a kind of protection for it, but you know, there are thousands of files regarding patents and registrations, but how many of them are in the market? How many of them can we see in the market? So it's more important to make them to produce and maybe sell their stuff, or of course.
Actually, there is one very interesting example about this. You know, Tupperware, a male engineer, I think he was an engineer, he designed this Tupperware products, plastic products, but a woman created the marketing strategy for it from direct sales, you know, so marketing strategy and design. Otherwise, maybe that product wouldn't be so popular. So marketing strategy for your ideas is also very important.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. There's one more question. You mentioned that the representation of women in design is higher in Turkey than in other countries. Do you think there is still a glass ceiling for female designers in the private sector?
I may say mention about an anecdote. In one of my graduate classes, there's an architect, a woman architect taking the class, and she was mentioning that she used to go to meetings with firms on her own, and she said that they didn't take her seriously, and she asked for a male colleague to join her in those meetings, and she said that there was a huge difference. So, I mean, she's an architect, but it doesn't matter. I think that kind of cultural, I don't know, ceiling or barriers or kind of other problems are similar. We share those kind of. I mean, if we are talking about industrial design, and if we are talking about production industry, we are talking about ateliers, and you know, those kind of facilities are not suitable for women, you know, and Pınar Kaygan's article mentions about this very well. So the woman has to take different roles, like a mother or a sister or a daughter, I don't know. She has to position herself apart from being a professional to a more domestic or a feminine situation. So maybe it cannot be called a ceiling, but it is a kind of ceiling. I mean, it's more dangerous because it is three-dimensional. I mean, ceiling is only about going to top, but this is all about the everyday life of the females, so which is really sad in that sense. Yeah.
The working conditions of designers in small and medium-sized companies, in organize sanayi bölgeleri, in you know, in industrial zones like İkitelli, Dudullu. I mean, I am sure, you know, women designers face a lot of problems. Even going to your workplace for a woman is difficult. There are studies about that, how women face problems on the road, you know, when you take dolmuş, a bus. If you leave your work at a late hour, how you will go back to your home. You know, these are all issues. Of course, there are so many. When we say we are represented, you know, women are much more. We see a lot of women designers, much more than Europe. We don't want to portray a you know, unrealistic scene. Of course, we are aware of the fact that we have to solve a lot of problems, not only for women designers, but for women in general in Turkey. Of course, I mean, we face all professions face, but more so for mechanical engineers, for designers, because we need to be close to production. We need to work with masters. That's why women designers prefer to work in large companies where they have better facilities. So this is a problem for women designers, for women engineers. Of course, I mean, we face those problems, of course.
Thank you very much.
Kadın olmak zor.
Yes, it's very difficult to be a woman, yeah. Yeah, and as the time is running, I'm closing the session. I would like to thank you, both of you. It was such a great pleasure to have you here today. I also would like to thank our audience for their attendance and for their questions. We wish you all a great day and hope to celebrate the World IP Day with all of you maybe next year again. And thank you for attendance again. Now I would like to give the floor to Dan to wind up our webinar.
We thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Power to women.
Yes, thank you very much. Such an informative webinar. We really appreciate it. It's been a real privilege to have you all with us today for such an important subject. And thank you to our audience for being with us today as well. I wish you all a good day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.